objectively speaking, logic dictates, when you look at the Arsenal situation, I think the front three that they will buy this season is Eze, Gyökeres, and Madueke. Completely objective now about this. With Rodrigo, it can happen. I'm not denying it. Rodrigo also is a target for Arsenal. But if they sign Rodrigo, that means they will not sign Eze. Then maybe Eze goes to a Liverpool, as an example, if Diaz leaves. So it's a domino effect type situation. That's why, and by the way, this is something that you both should agree on. When I call out the people who say, we should get a backup for Saka, just as good as Saka. Bullshit. No team in the world has that stuff. Stop with this false narrative creating. I hate when people create false narratives like, let's go get a backup for Mo just as good as Mo. It just doesn't exist though. You can't get a backup for Virgil as good as Virgil. You can't get a backup for Alisson as good as Alisson. Now obviously Saka, Rice, and these guys are not as good as Alisson and Van Dijk and Mo, but at the same time, with all due respect, if you sign a player of Declan Rice's quality, he ain't going to sit on the bench. If you sign a player Odegaard level, he ain't going to sit on the bench. Saka level, he ain't going to sit on the bench. Which is why, when you signed Norgard, I came here and I said, upgrade on Jorginho. Makes sense. He is a player that will be willing to sit on the bench at Arsenal Football Club. No problem. But don't tell me that you're going to sign these like players that have the potential to be A-plus players like an Eze and just sit them on the bench. So that's why now we come full circle to this moment. This is where now we have to objectively criticize Arsenal Football Club. If I'm in Arsenal's place, I immediately cancel this Madueke thing because from any logic you want to look at it, it's nonsensical. You ask me why, I tell you why. Because, number one, Nwaneri in this current moment in time is already better than Madueke. I need a Mo backup at my club. You tell me, will you sign Nwaneri as backup or Madueke as backup? I would say Nwaneri as backup. I think Nwaneri is a fantastic talent and he's much better than Madueke already in my eyes. Number two, if you are looking at someone who dribbles, if you're looking at someone who creates some dribbling, if you would like, off the bench, go to the Belgian league and buy you a winger for 2 million that no one's ever heard of, and they're all good dribblers. Go do what Brighton do. Go get yourself an Adingra level player who can dribble. Go get yourself a player like that, like Mitoma, who can dribble. You don't have to go spend 45 million on a dribbler because I think Nwaneri is already better than Madueke. So for me, I would even look at signing a player of that level. What I would do personally is I would go and sign Rodrigo as the starting left winger, and then I would sign another left winger and sell both Martinelli and Trossard, because that's where you're at your weakest. So I would sell Trossard and I would sell Martinelli. I would buy Rodrigo and then I would buy a backup left winger that's objective and realistic. Let me give you an example of objective and realistic. Nusa, Malik Fofana. If you tell Malik Fofana, who got relegated with Lyon, come sit on the bench at Arsenal, he'd say yes. Just don't come to me, Arsenal fans, and tell me Eze is going to sit on the bench, because that's where I will have a problem and tell you that's not objective. And that's it.
Before Terry speaks, I just have to say
go on.
The difference between me and Hussam is that Hussam speaks out of his feeling and his vision. And I respect what Hussam thinks. He's someone who is logical and who thinks logically speaking. The difference between me and him is I also speak logically, but I add one thing. I read the reports. I wake up in the morning and I read the articles. Apparently, Hussam doesn't. He speaks when he actually is on the show. I actually watched the Ornstein video when he said that the Madueke deal is separate than the Eze and the Rodrigo, the left winger deal. That's where I came up with the conclusion. You speak with emotions and you speak with understanding of your own opinion. I would take the journalists that you actually quote all the time, Ornstein and other journalists when you quote, and I actually form my opinion based on how I feel, but also I add the journalists. So when they actually speak, I actually take it and understand, because I'm not an ITK. I don't know what Arsenal will do. All I have in my opinion, all I have is Ornstein tweeting, Fabrizio saying that. The fact we spoke about, we're not going to repeat what we said last episode when we spoke about how Eze improves the Arsenal team. If someone comes to Liverpool, Gravenberch will sit on the bench because now you have Wirtz and McAllister. Liverpool, if they sign Eze tomorrow, if Eze is going to play left wing or in the central midfielder, we don't know. So now we got to look. Are Liverpool going to sign a midfielder? They might sign a midfielder. Liverpool are actually going to sign Gay, who might sit on the bench. for the likes of Konate and Van Dijk. Eze is the same. And I actually back Eze to go to Arsenal and actually try battle for a position because I believe he can actually sit Odegaard on the bench. There's a lot of games to be played. If they don't sign Eze or Rodrigo, that means they actually don't have the money or they couldn't sign someone. But again, I'm going to repeat, we take the reports, not the feelings. Feelings are.
Okay, can I ask you a question? I'm not even gonna do any monologue or anything. Just a genuine
Good.
question.
No, you did a big monologue, but fine.
Is it objective for me to claim that we can take the reports and use logical reasoning to deduct where the football club is going?
Yes, 100%.
Okay, so that's all I did. I just used logic, looked at everything reported. I logically explained to you guys. I don't think it's gonna be both. That's it.
Great. And we explained to you, so it's a different opinion. We explained to in my opinion, see, Arsenal team have a Rodrigo, they sell Trossard, so they have Rodrigo and Martinelli. They sell Trossard, Rodrigo and Martinelli. They can get Madueke to be backup for Saka, and they can have Eze, Odegaard, okay? Rice, Zubamendi, Moreno. That's 5 midfielders. And I actually think that 5 midfielders might not be enough for the season. And Norgard, that's the 6th guy. 6 is actually the ultimate goal for any club that is challenging for the Champions League, the Cups, and the Premier League to have. Am I being objective? 100%, because even Liverpool want to have 6 midfielders, and Arsenal do. Nwaneri, clearly, Arteta doesn't even value him. We praise City, and that's what I mean. We praise City plenty of times.
How can I quit small?
Let me just finish.
Did you just say Liverpool have 6 midfielders? Who is of Wirtz's quality on the bench? Go ahead, yalla. Debunk my point.
No one.
No one. Who's on the bench? Curtis Jones, Endo, Elliott. That's like Norgard level, and that's my point.
Okay, hold on. And you are looking, okay, let me just answer you. And you are looking to offload Endo and buy a better defensive midfielder to have Gravenberch on the bench.
Not true, Endo's staying.
But every Liverpool fan wanted Endo to go and wanted Liverpool to buy defensive midfield.
I don't.
You literally
because backup players have to be worse than the starters, Mo.
This is getting...
Mo. Don't do what Standards FC does and say we should have a bench just as good as the starters. On the bench, in my opinion, this is what even elite clubs historically have. Even his club, he'll come tell you, oh my God, Park Ji-sung is underrated, Fletcher's underrated. Yes, okay, they're all underrated.
You know, you are saying Endo is staying. Great. You know, okay, Hussam, let's have a back and forth. You know that Endo is staying, but you on your show,
I want him to stay.
You wanted actually a defensive midfielder. You literally told me on Hussam that you wanted a defensive midfielder.
Not anymore because it's a different style.
No, you told me this summer. This is getting ridiculous.
Oh yeah. Starter. I wanted starter.
Yes, he wanted a starter.
I wanted a starting DM, but now we signed Wirtz. The conversation changes, Mo.
What?
Because here's the thing. If you get so Liverpool play with 3 in midfield, double pivot and a 10. If Liverpool go sign one of the best 10s in the world, of course the conversation changes. You want to know why the conversation changes? You want to know how many pivot players we have now? Watch this. McAllister, Gravenberch, Endo, Curtis Jones, and Szoboszlai, who the last 6-7 games of last season played in the double pivot. Ask the Liverpool fans.
I am actually astonished that someone is not praising a football club for wanting to have a quality bench. The difference between... Let me just finish.
Don't judge my words.
Let me finish. I'm not going to quote you. I am actually thinking that Arsenal need to actually overtake the likes of Liverpool and City. And the only way they can do this is not only to have a good starting 11, for the backups to be good because of the injuries that happened to the likes of Odegaard and Bukayo Saka. That is the problem. Liverpool have a very good spine. So you can get a bench player that may be 5 levels. Arsenal need to get a bench player that is 3 levels only, because last season they completely didn't even challenge because their bench was not even close to their starting 11. Eze makes a lot of sense for them for that price. Why? Because on paper today, we think that Eze is Odegaard level. Clearly, Eze playing for Crystal Palace is not Odegaard level. But we think this. Eze himself, he plays for England. He's not a starter. Now Eze goes to Arsenal. He takes Arsenal to the next level. Now, if Odegaard doesn't perform, you bring on Eze. It's a competition in the position. That is the problem, Osam. Arsenal are not Liverpool or Man City. You won the league. Man City won 4
Okay, you want to talk about
Arsenal
City. You want to talk about
overtake
City.
you.
Okay, can we use City as an example? I'm so glad you said City, okay? Now, I asked Martin, who's a City fan, match-going City fan, what do you think your starting 11 next season will be? He told me the same exact team that started against Al Hilal, okay? So now, let's look at this. Let's all be objective and all stop shouting, okay? So, I'm going to include the players that will obviously start. So, no one here will waffle, let's be honest, okay? Ederson, he thinks that they're not going to get Livramento, so let's just say it's Matheus Nunes, okay? So it's Ederson, Matheus Nunes, Diaz, Gvardiol, Ait Nouri. The midfield three is going to be Reinders, Rodri, and one of Sherky and Foden, and the other on the right. On the left, Marmoush, up top, Haaland. Hello, perfect. That's their starting 11 now. Now let's go bench. On the bench for Manchester City, Gundogan, who's 35, Bernardo Silva, Savio Andoku, Ake, Akanji, Stones, Bettinelli, Ortega, Vitor Reis, Kusanov, Oscar Bob, Nico O'Reilly. Now,
Nico Gonzalez.
Okay, no, but I saying Nico Gonzalez. I think the report is going to leave. But anyway, regardless.
No, hold on.
Can we not argue
because he's not good enough? Yeah, you're making your point wrong.
Okay, خلاص, Nico Gonzalez. Happy now, Nico Gonzalez. Out of all the players on that City bench, the only ones maybe who you could say could start in the starting 11 and you wouldn't sense it is maybe like, let's say Nico Gonzalez. I'll give you that, no problem. Ortega, great backup goalkeeper. Ake, Akanji, that's 4. The others are all, Doku and Savio are levels below Marmoush.
No, that's not what City. That's the problem. The problem with you is that's not what City thought is different. City thought that they bought Nico Gonzalez and he's going to be fantastic and great as he's going to be able to play some games. He actually didn't live up to the hype. They're now looking to sell him, and now reports are saying he's staying. He's going. He's staying.
Now from my main point because you lost it. The point is more. Hear me out. Okay, look. Yes, last season, starting striker for Arsenal is Havertz. Correct. Let me just use one player as an example. The starting striker last season for Arsenal was Havertz.
Yes.
Okay. Who was the bench striker?
Jesus.
Hello. Now, next season, who's the starting striker?
Okeres.
Who's the bench?
Havertz.
Okay. Now, the reason why that makes sense is I can't sign Gyökeres and a player of Gyökeres' quality to sit one
but he thinks Havertz is that quality. You know that.
No. The other way around. I don't think Havertz is that quality, and that's my point.
Arteta thinks so.
It doesn't matter what Arteta thinks.
But
I'm talking about us logically. When building a squad, first of all, you don't know for a fact what Arteta thinks. Number one. Number two, when you're building a squad,
I know.
Bro, look. This guy right here, Terry, grew up watching Man United dominate with squads. So he'll tell you about squads. Yes. Objectively, you have your 11 being the strongest 11 possible. And then you have 2 or 3 players maximum on the bench that are of starting 11 quality or just a bit lower, but the rest are all lower quality.
Okay. And look, interestingly, the argument I remember us having last week about Arsenal and Eze was how we would pitch it to him. I don't remember the other side of it. I remember the argument about pitching, why would he come and be a backup player when I don't necessarily think he will be in the medium to long term. I think what you're saying, Hussam, on a medium to long term scale is correct. But in a short term, there are instances where you're wrong. For instance, and while you two were talking, I just went back to refresh my memory. You go back to those 2 brilliant Arsenal and Chelsea teams that existed between 2004 and 2006. Players that were on the bench quite a lot at that time for Chelsea. You'd see the likes of Robin on the bench. They had games where you had Ida Gudjonsson and Drogba starting football matches with Crespo on the bench. You look at Arsenal in that period. There was a time where they had a young, God rest his soul, Antonio Reyes, who was very, their number 9. They had Omri, they had Bergkamp, and they had Robin van Persie in their squad. Now, young but very talented, very hyped players. That's like going out and signing a young starlet now, right? So where I think what you're saying holds water is, say they do, and this is for me, will they get all the players they're linked to? Rodrigo, Eze, Noni, and Gyökeres. There's a chance I don't get all of them. But again, this is the issue with, I don't ever hang my hat on one journalist specifically. I trust Ornstein, I trust Fabrizio, I trust like Ben Jacobs, in the sense as I don't think they're lying to us. I don't think they're making up stories from nothing. And when you go across what they've all said, there's a separation from all those deals, and Arsenal are working on them. And none of us really know with the way Berta operates, who they are going to land, who they are going to get, although it feels like Noni is coming in. Where I disagree with you is, for a short period like a season, you could add Eze and Rodrigo to that mix, and we all go, who's going to bloody play? Well, it reminds me a little bit of that scene from The Dark Knight where the Joker breaks a pool cue in half and throws it down and says, we're recruiting, but there's only one position. And you let people fight it out. There's an element of, it may be Odegaard. It might be Rodrigo that gets signed and sits on the bench because of what other people do. But there is a world where I think for a short period of time, you can be a little bit top heavy with talent. Where it does start to go wrong, where I agree with you, is there comes a point where a certain type of talent is sitting on that bench and they go, this ain't for me. You might have it this time next year with Szoboszlai. Szoboszlai does not see himself as a bench player, a rotational player at Liverpool. He sees himself as a starter because that's what he came in to do. If he sits on the bench for the majority of the season and can barely kick a ball, you may find this time next year, there's stories of him and his team looking for a move away to be a starter somewhere. But in the short term, there's no reason for you not to sign Wirtz because you've already got Szoboszlai, because you're improving. There are many an Arsenal fan who think Eze would be an improvement on Odegaard in his position.
Why are you gaslighting so much right now in this? Because it's not even comparable.
Why every time we talk sense, you say we gaslight?
Okay,
What is this?
Szoboszlai and Wirtz are
When we
not
say
close
Isak
in
to
terms of...
Liverpool, it's not gaslighting.
One
But-
sentence.
hang on.
Szoboszlai and
One
Wirtz are
way.
not close in terms of quality.